In this video, I'm going to be talking about PDEs, and that's short for phosphodiesterases. They are basically a large family of enzymes that the job is to break down CAMP, C-A-M-P. Okay, so in an M1 phenotype, which actually attacks tumors, the tumors try to escape it by releasing adenosine and then A to A receptor interaction with the T cell, suppressing the T cells. As a result of that interaction, it also releases CAMP. Now, if the CAMP goes on for too long, it will end up controlling inflammatory pathways, and the phosphodiesterases job is to break down the CAMP or to turn off the CAMP released by adenosine secreted by tumors. So the PDEs acts as an off switch for CAMP. Now, this is why it's important to keep phosphodiesterase at good levels so that it's not deficient. Because if PDEs are deficient, especially PDE4, which is the PDE for the immune system, so if that one is deficient, then CAMP levels are going to be too high. If they are too high, then suppressive adenosine will accumulate in the tumor microenvironment. What that extra adenosine will end up doing is that it's going to suppress T cells even further, because adenosine binds to the A2A receptor on the T cell, therefore suppressing the T cell. What that ends up doing is that it creates a self-enforced feedback loop that supports tumors, because then that's going to create even more CAMP, and then and the cycle continues. So persistent, ongoing high CAMP because of PDE deficiency can cause all kinds of problems, such as neurotransmitter imbalance, altered immune signaling, uh, increased calcium influx in some tissues, even contributing to cardiac arrhythmias and also anxiety-like symptoms because of PDE deficiency. What can cause PDE deficiency or phosphodiesterase is a gut inflammation. Since most of the immune system is in the gut, a good way to reduce that gut inflammation is with a fermented food called kimchi. Kimchi also contains capsaicin if it's the spicy kind of kimchi. Capsaicin can actually increase brown fat, and brown fat is great for the immune system. Okay, excessive adenosine in the tumor microenvironment can suppress T cells. So this upregulates CAMP, which makes even more adenosine. Also, down regulates IL-2 in T cells. So adenosine down regulates IL-2, and then making T cells not able to proliferate and reducing T cell numbers. But kimchi can actually help with this, because the spicy type of kimchi contains capsaicin, and then capsaicin can help upregulate brown fat. What the brown fat will do will increase the master mitochondrial regulator called PGC1A. Okay, this situation is made even worse if it's an M2 phenotype, because TREGs, an M2 phenotype, steals IL-2 from T cells, making T cell numbers even lower. So to help out the T cells, the capsaicin in spicy kimchi creates the PGC1A from the brown fat, and then creates mitochondria to provide ATP to T cells. Uh, T cells, they need ATP like desperately. So, because not only for T cell function, but also for T cell like cytotoxic activities such as granzyme B and perforins, which creates apoptosis in tumors. Now, this is also why kimchi, the spicy type, is critical to include in the diet, because low ATP in the micro tumor environment reduces IFN-γ, which is what T cells need to for cytotoxic activity, like even in CD8 T cells, because CD8 T cells are actually anti-tumor. They attack tumors. So kimchi is great for anti-tumor activity, but also low ATP in uh, for T cells in a hostile tumor environment also promotes the upregulation of PD-1 in T cells. What that ends up doing is that it makes T cells weak and vulnerable to PD-L1 from tumors and cancer cells, because tumor and cancer cells, they create a PD-1 PD-L1 axis that ends up leading to exhausted T cells. But the PD-1 happens, or at least one reason the PD-1 is on the T cell is because of low ATP levels. So kimchi and capsaicin can help increase ATP. Okay, also prolonged low ATP under adenosine suppression by tumors, because tumors secrete adenosine, is that the ATP being low can also lead to reactive oxygen species accumulation. But the kimchi can help reduce reactive oxygen species, since kimchi is an anti-inflammatory. Okay, this is how kimchi can actually be an anti-tumor, because uh, kimchi reduces gut inflammation that reduces PDE4. So the gut inflammation lowers the PDE4. What that ends up doing is that CAMP ends up becoming too high, because there's no PDE to bind to the CAMP or to cleave to the CAMP or reduce it. What high CAMP ends up doing is that it reduces TNF alpha. If TNF alpha is too low, um, that actually ends up speeding up tumor progression and metastasis, or tumor growth. Okay, excessive reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress can actually reduce PDE and PDE4, or the phosphodiesterases. What that ends up doing is that CAMP gets too high, and then adenosine accumulates, and then reduces T cell proliferation. So that's why it's a good idea to take vitamin C, vitamin E, since they are reactive oxygen species scavengers. A good way to support vitamin C levels is by reducing gut inflammation, which is what a kimchi does. So kimchi is an anti-inflammatory for the stomach, therefore allowing the tight junction proteins occludin and claudin, as well as zonula or ZO1, to be able to keep the stomach tight, to because that will help improve vitamin C, vitamin E absorption, therefore reducing reactive oxygen species, allowing phosphodiesterases to stay intact or to be functional, to reduce and cleave excessive CAMP levels that are actually generated by adenosine A2A receptor interactions. So that's it for the video. If you want to see more videos, like, share, and comment. Keep it locked in here on this channel for more future videos, as I have many more coming. Uh, if you want to help out any family members or friends, share my videos, and I'll see you in the next video.